Community Engagement and Development students. I'm going to be explaining assignment 2, which is your case study. Assignment 2 will be done with the same groups you used for your presentation. So working on groups of 3, you will need to read and understand your case studies allocated to you and then use the 11 steps of community engagement to provide us with a report on how you would conduct a community engagement initiative using your case study. So assignment 2 carries 50% of your total mark. So please ensure that your reports are detailed, informative, specific, and clear. Um, if you're looking for your case studies, you can go to Blackboard under content for ASCE101. You can scroll down, you'll find your study guide and some other articles, and then you'll see assignment 2. So under assignment 2, there's the case study for nautical studies, and then there's a case study for textile technology. Okay, so looking at the case studies, the case study for textile technology is as follows. The Makatini Flat occupies an area of 1,800 kilometers squared north of Durban on the eastern coast. Out of the 9 provinces in South Africa, KwaZulu-Natal is perhaps the least developed and has the lowest Human Development Index. With an annual rainfall of 630 millimeters, the Pengola River, which used to flow through Makatini, was dammed in 1974 with the objective of controlling floods and the provision of water for irrigation. The construction of the Jozini Dam left behind a vast, flat and fertile area would reduce flooding incidents in the region. Agriculture is an important source of income in Makatini, and over 95% of the households are involved in some form of agricultural production. However, 90% are considered to be deficit farmers, as they do not produce sufficient produce to meet the household food requirement. The major crops in the area are beans and maize for local consumption and cotton grown as a commercial crop. Yields are generally low. Farming is practiced on small-scale farms, typically between 1 and 3 ha, and cotton usually occupies most of the farm. Cultivation is largely carried out by hand, although there is some limited use of tractors for land preparation. Knapsack sprayers are usually hired for the application of insecticides. The family is the main provider of agricultural labor in the region, although labor is hired for certain tasks such as plowing the land, spraying, and harvesting. Apart from the high level of poverty, very high levels of unemployment are also characterized of the area. Most of the men has left the area to find employment in bigger cities around the province. There is also high level of teenage pregnancy, which often results in young people leaving school to stay at home and look after their infants. Tobeka Vilakazi is a 45-year-old mother of 3 children who lives in the Makatini flats. She has 2 daughters aged 19 and 17 and a young boy aged 7. Both her daughters stay at home to look after their own children aged 1 and 2 years old. They keep themselves busy with household chores. Between 2008 and 2017, Tobeka specialized in planting a variety of vegetables, which she sold to the local spaza shops and community members. This was an income for her and her immediate family. However, in early 2017, she fell ill and often had to travel long distances to the clinic for treatment. This resulted in her vegetable garden business closing down as there was no one to take over the venture. She is much better now and is looking at restarting her farming. Due to her interest in farming, she attended an information session by Cotton SA, an Agri-CETA accredited training institution, on cotton farming. She subsequently planted cotton on a small plot near her home and was very surprised as to how well the crop did. She is now looking at expanding the farming venture and is very interested in useful products it can produce. Tobeka has approached you to partner with her on this initiative due to your background in textile technology. So for textile technology students, you are now partnering with Tobeka to assist her in her interest in cotton farming and small scale farming. Okay, so let's look at the nautical studies students case study now. So the nautical studies students case study is as follows. Over half of the world's population lives in countries edging on the Indian Ocean. Most of these are developing countries that have a critical need for food security, development opportunities, and sustainable use of their resources. As a growing global population stresses the ability of our society to produce food, water, shelter, and energy, we will continue to look to the oceans to help sustain our basic needs. To survive, we will have to build upon our existing knowledge of the ocean and its potential to help meet the needs of the world and its inhabitants. We urgently have to manage our interactions with this environment. From marine captains to dredging services, from scientists to technicians and laboratory assistants, from divers to marine mammal trainers, from resource managers to environmental educators. Many different and exciting opportunities are available to those who want to pursue a career in marine environments. Okay, so Tembelishle is a grade 11 pupil at Eunice Girls High School. She had won a scholarship to attend the boarding school as Tembelishle's mother and father had both passed away when she was only 7 years old. Tembelishle's grandmother solely supports her and her three siblings aged 7, 9, and 12. Her grandmother finds it very difficult to survive on her social grants, which has motivated Thembelihle to work hard in school and university to find a good job to take care of her grandmother and siblings. However, such a dream is impossible when Thembelihle cannot afford to dream of going to a fancy university to study what she truly enjoys, which is nautical science. Kimberly is often teased about her passion for the sea and ocean as she lives in Free State, which is an inland province. However, this has not changed her mind about pursuing a career in nautical science. Kimberly has written a heartfelt letter to several universities, bursars, and the Transnet National Port Authority (TNPA), explaining her story and seeking funding for her tertiary studies. From her letter, the TNPA has since indicated an interest in the promotion, recruitment and retention of nautical students from inland provinces of South Africa. It has come to their understanding that 80% of nautical students and employees belong to the coastlands of South Africa. This suggests that young people from inland provinces or communities are either not interested in maritime fields or are not aware of the career paths available on the sea. The TNPA has targeted communities and young people from Inner Northern Cape, the North-West Province, Limpopo, Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Free State and the Inner Eastern Cape provinces. The program will include an outline of the possible careers that young people can pursue as a nautical student and possible avenues for bursaries and scholarships in the respective fields. The TNPA has recruited students from various universities to assist in the above program, which they have named Nautical Drivers. Durban University of Technology was one of the universities who participated in this program as part of their community engagement initiatives and was allocated the community of Monang, where Tembe Lishle and her grandmother are from. Your class will be the first students to start the project, thereafter handing the project down to second year students to take over and so forth. Okay, so let's look at your instructions for nautical studies. So your instructions is your department has approached you to partner with the Nautical Drivers Program due to your background in nautical studies. So as nautical studies students, you will now partner with this community to assist them in gaining knowledge on fields in marine time, nautical studies, and career paths for young people who live in inland provinces of KZN. Okay, so now that we've covered our case studies, let me advise you as to what's required of you all for your actual case study report. So your case study report consists of 11 questions. So the 11 questions are the 11 steps to community engagement and community development. So step one is to prepare yourself. So as a community engagement and development practitioner, you will need to prepare yourself before you start any community engagement project. So for step one, you will need to read about the possible areas to study in, for example, marine field and what each may entail as a career. So for textile students, you will need to read about cotton farming and small scale farming to better understand the context, right? So you would need to read about your specific case study, understand the concepts, understand the topic area, and be able to summarize what you have read in 300 words. Okay, so looking at your assessment criteria for question one. So step one, do your own research, a 300-word summary of cotton farming and small-scale farming, or about the possible areas to study in the marine field and what each field may entail as a career should be included. Okay, so your answer needs to be comprehensive, it needs to be detailed, but it also needs to be specific so that you are explaining all the important areas for 300 words. Okay, so this is for 5 marks, so ensure that you you pick on the important aspects of each topic that you choose. Okay, so for textile students, you all will be doing cotton farming and small scale farming, and then for nautical studies, you all will be looking at possible areas to study in the marine field and what each may entail as a career. All right, so let's look at step 2. Okay, so step 2 is learn about the community. So after you have now researched on your specific aspects, you will now need to learn about the community. Okay, so you know your topic area. Now let's look at your community. So it says, what are some of the ways you can learn about the community and the different careers available for young people interested in the marine sector? Or if you look at cotton, if you look at the textile student, you're looking at uh, what are some of the ways you can learn about community and cotton farming on your own before embarking on a community development initiative. So basically for the textile students, you will need to look at what are the other ways you can learn about cotton farming. Look at the informal ways. Sometimes books and the internet are not always context specific. So your case studies are both based on South African communities, and you need to look at context-specific information on cotton farming and maritime careers. So look at other ways of gaining information. What are some of the informal ways of gaining information? Who are some of the people you can get this information from, etc. So for the nautical studies students, you will need to get information on the different careers available for young people interested in marine sector. So look at who can teach you about the other fields available for students and where you can find this information, right? So you're looking at 3 activities on ways you can find information on your specific topic and then the resources required to get this information. So let's say, for example, you have interview for activity 1. Then you'll say, what are the resources required? For example, you would need someone to interview. So who did you interview to get this information? Then you'll have number 2 and then the resources required, number 3 and the resources required. So if we go to our assessment criteria for number 2, learning about the community for 5 marks, you will need to provide evidence of research about the concerned community needs to be included. So speak about your specific community from your case study, do some research about them, understand who they are and what their needs are, what their resources are. Then you need to have a minimum of 3 activities should be identified. You need to have resources required also needs to be identified and needs to be linked to your activity. Like my interview example, you need to have contact details for the person you're interviewing. You need to know what their position is and how much of information they can provide to you. Then relevant activities and resources also need to be identified.